Hello and welcome everyone. In this series of video, I will be showing how to create a .NET MAUI app, and this is the part one, which is just an introduction of what we are about to undertake. So as I just said that this series is dedicated to .NET multi-platform app UI or .NET MAUI app in short. And this .NET MAUI platform only uses cross-platform code. So cross-platform is across platforms, like it is independent of any specific platform like Windows, Android, iOS or Mac OS. Now we shall create a note-taking app, and in which the users can create a note, he can save the note, load the note, and then also able to delete multiple notes, not a single note but multiple notes. And how does it look like? We will first, let us see, we'll do these things like creating the .NET MAUI shell app and then run our app on one of the platforms like Windows machine, Android phone and simulator. If you are able to see it on Android phone and simulator as well as Windows machine, that will amply demonstrate that it is really running cross-platform, right? And we'll define the user interface with extensible application markup language, XAML in short, and interact with XAML or XAML elements through code. And create views and bind them to data, and use navigation to move to and from pages. And this entire series of application is based on this reference, learn.microsoft.com /NUS/.NET/MAUI/tutorial notes app, and then query string view equals .NET MAUI -8.0. And I will put my own explanation and I will be using the code of this reference source. And this application looks like this is the final creation, your notes, and you can create your notes, you can write notes, okay, like sleeping tomorrow, register for marathon, and then save it, and also you're able to delete it. All right, and this is on the simulator and this is on the actual Android device. Welcome all once again. Now in this part 2, we'll actually create the MAUI project. So in the previous lecture, we have gone for the introduction to this whole series of lectures, which is a notes application. And if you haven't gone through this, I will mark it in the video description. And let's switch over to Visual Studio and start making our first project. So let's flip over to Visual Studio. Now here I will create a new project. So .NET MAUI app. Recent project template .NET MAUI app. So that means I will make this project name as notes. And solution name is notes, and this is unchecked, so let it be. So, and we'll go for clicking next. .NET 8 long-term support, create. So my project is created. So now I have connected my Samsung mobile, actual mobile, to this as a deployment target by connecting the USB-C port of my phone to the USB-C port of my desktop and doing the USB debugging, and that's all given in another video which will be there in the description. And if I click Samsung SM, this my mobile device as a deployment target, it gives me all of these builds, and my mobile device is my mobile phone comes up with the hello world, which I will just project 1 minute. So you can see that my mobile device, this is actual mobile device, Kaushik's S21 Hello World. Now if I clicked 1, 2, 3 times, so this is working on directly deployed on my own smartphone, smart mobile device, rather than an Android emulator, because for some reason the Android emulator was not working. So I need to look into that. But if you can, your final aim is to actually deploy it on some mobile device, whether it is Android, this is tablet, or your mobile. So that is the main purpose, for production, deploying production application, which I've been successfully able to demonstrate. Okay, so I will finish here. Hello and welcome all. Welcome to this part 3 for this Create a .NET MAUI app series, which we have started previously with the part 2, the previous part, the immediate preceding part, where I have created a .NET MAUI application, a simple notes application which had nothing but the initial template with a hello world. Now let's customize this app shell today in this third lecture. So when Visual Studio creates a .NET MAUI project, 4 important code files are generated. So let's switch over to Visual Studio, and these are the, let's close all of these tabs, close all tabs, and let me tell you, these are the 4 files that are created: app.xaml, and then app shell, main page.xaml, and MAUI program.cs. And of course, the code behind files are already there behind the XAML files. So app.xaml.cs, appshell.xaml.cs, mainpage.xaml.cs. So basically these 2 files, XAML file and the code behind C# file, they are combined to be termed as just a single file. So now in this lecture we'll customize the app shell. So the MAUI program, let's quickly recall what this MAUI program file and the other 3 files are referring to. So this is a code file that bootstraps your application. So it calls the create builder method, and it uses the app, okay, and it configures the fonts, and for debug it adds builder.logging.addDebug. It calls the addDebug method, okay, and then finally it builds. So this code, the code in this file serves as the cross-platform entry point of the app, which configures and starts the app. The template startup code points to the app class defined by the app.xaml. So where is the app.xaml? This is the startup code. It is the app.xaml file. Now the app.xaml and the app.xaml.cs. So this is the app.xaml.cs. So what do they do? So these files are referred to as a single file, as I just told, that XAML file and XAML.code behind C# file. They are, although they are 2 different files, they are commonly referred to as a single file to keep this things simple. Now there are generally 2 files with any XML file, the .xaml file itself and a corresponding code file that is a child item of it in the Solution Explorer. The .xaml file contains the XAML markup, and the code file contains the code created by the user to interact with the XAML markup, XAML markup. The app.xaml file or XAML file contains the app-wide XML resources such as color, styles, and templates. So this is styles/colors.xml, styles.xml. The app.xaml.cs, so app.xaml.cs file generally contains the code that instantiates the shell application, and in this project it points to the app shell class, okay. And what do the app shell.xaml and appshell.xaml.cs file do? This file, that XAML file, appshell.xaml file, defines the appshell class, which is used to define the visual hierarchy of the application. Now these things don't worry too much about the visual hierarchy term, and it will be clear as you move along in this project. Okay, and the main page, the XAML, which I've already seen, it gives you the text hello world followed by welcome to .NET multi-platform app UI, and it contains also the button and all the markup for a UI. And this is the startup page displayed by the app. The main page.xml file, this file defines the user interface of the page, and this code behind file contains the code behind for the XAML, like the code for a button click event, like this counter button clicked, it will increment the counter by 1. That's about what we have already seen in the previous project. Now let's add an about page. So what we'll do, we'll right click on the nodes and add a new item, .NET MAUI, and .NET MAUI, this is the content page. So .NET MAUI content page XML. So we could go for the content page C#, but then we'll have to write all the markup through the code behind C#. Okay, so now we'll call this .NET MAUI content page as about page. So it will create a new about page.xml, and if you look into this, the code behind is nothing but it is initializing the component. All right. Now this about page.xaml file, it has opened a new document tab displaying all of the XAML markup that represent the UI of the page. Now this XAML file is of not much use, as it is just like a welcome to the .NET. So we'll change it largely. So what we'll do, we'll keep the vertical stack layout as it is, because that's how the layout comes up. Because the one page, this is the content page, it should have just one child, that is the vertical stack layout. However, the vertical stack layout can contain horizontal stack layout and many other stuff, but there is at the root there will be just one. Either it could be horizontal stack layout or vertical stack layout or anything else, but not more than one at the root level within the content page. So we'll change this. So we'll make this spacing 10 and margin, these are pure HTML, margin from left, right, top, bottom, and spacing between two elements vertically, and then there is within this vertical stack layout, we will create a horizontal stack layout. We'll embed a horizontal stack layout, and within the horizontal stack layout, we'll give it a spacing of 10. Spacing of 10, and there will be an image source. .NET bot underscore PNG, which is the .NET bot that we have seen in the previous lecture when you create the project, and semantic properties dot description. You can write a description of what this image is all about, referring to the dot something similar. So the .NET bot waving hello, and height request. Height request nothing but the height is 64. slightly different from HTML with XAML, but it can be easily understood by a person who is proficient in HTML. Okay, so then there is a label, and we'll include a font, and font size equals font size. By default it came as a body, but it has to be changed. Font size 22. Font attribute or attributes, font attributes, this is bold. Notes, text on the label will be notes, and vertical options equals end. Now vertical options is one of the attributes, so close it and label. So what is vertical option? Vertical options, let us see the definition. Now assigning the vertical, you can see the me explaining it modifies how the element is laid to when there is excess space available along the y-axis from the parent layout. If the elements inside a layout are set to expand, the extra space is distributed proportionately. Now this vertical options equals end, it typically indicates that the UI element should be positioned at the bottom of its container vertically. Now vertical options to end, if you set like that, if you set vertical options to end, it ensures that the element is aligned to the bottom edge of its container regardless of the container's size or other elements within it. Now we'll close the horizontal stack layout. We are done with the horizontal stack layout, and then below the horizontal stack layout we'll put another label with some text, descriptive text. Something like that. Okay, and this text and this label, and below the label you could have closed it by putting a front slash over here, and then that end label tag is already done away with, and then we'll have a button. This is the button, so button text will be learn more, and when you click the button it will trigger the learn more underscore clicked. It will trigger this method which you are going to write in the code behind file soon. So this is the clicked event button dot click event handler clicked. So those who have come from a Windows form background, you'd be more familiar with click. So here it is clicked. So here I'm talking about the click event handler of a button, but here it is called button clicked. Okay, so let's go to the XAML page where I've already added this learn more underscore clicked method that is being called over here. When you click the button, it will trigger this method, and I'm sending the arguments sender and event argc object as a sender, and then awaiting the launcher.default.open async. This is the URI that I want the button click event to take us to. Okay. Now next we'll add some image resources. So this is the official repository of .NET for the MAUI samples, which I could find with Google searching, and this is the images folder, and you can see that all of these images that I need to download are all here. So I can just click on one of the images and download the raw file. Now I have already, let me complete the downloading and I will come to the next stage then, by actually going back and forth and downloading all of these images one by one. So I have already downloaded all of these applications. Now let me add it to my images folder. So how we can go? Right click on images, add existing item. I'll have to browse to my downloads folder, and let me see where is my downloads folder. So this is my downloads folder. So what I can do, yeah, I can here can copy this path over here and paste it over here. Downloads, here. No, I will have to do all files. All right, yeah. So I can then hold the shift and then this one, and all these 4 icons I will add to my images folder. Right, so you can see icon nodes and their iOS version already added. As noted at the start of this article, the app shell class defines an app's visual hierarchy, the XAML XAML markup used in creating the UI or the user interface of the app. Okay, so we'll now update. I have opened the app shell.xaml page and we'll update it suitably to make it to customize it basically. So let me close all of the tabs, just close all but this to keep it more clutter free. Now what I will do, I will keep this part 1, 2, 3, 4 up to shell.flyout behavior disabled, and then title, this is notes, everything is there. Below this I'll just get rid of the titles over here, and in the shell content I'll just do a bit of indenting to close it over here, save it, and shell content title here I will, before the shell content all I have to do is put a tab bar control. This is the tab bar, it will set tabs, and tab and open tab and close tab. Between the open and close tab I will have open and close tab bar, I will have the this shell content. So tab bar will be clear when we browse the application, when we render the application. So shell content title, instead of home it will be notes now here, and this part will be the same as it is, data template local, which is pointing to the main page, and instead of the route here we'll create an icon attribute. We'll use the icon attribute. Now we have got the icon. So icon here, I will just explain everything. On platform, okay, so on platform it will be icon notes dot png, and iOS version is, as you would correctly expect, icon notes underscore iOS dot png. all these PNG images, icon notes underscore ios.png. Mac Catalyst, I'll explain everything in a bit. This is the same. This is for Mac computer, Mac operating system. Icon notes ios.png. Okay, that is one tab bar between the shell content and end shell content in the tab bar, and that is the notes page. Now I will create another tab bar for the about page, which we are going to add next. So I will just copy shell content, this part, and title will be about. So this is the about page. All right. So instead of when the application will load, it will load with the notes page with the title notes. Okay, and I will let you know what is this on platform in a bit. And here it is icon on platform, icon about. Instead of notes, it will be icon about. And icon underscore about. Underscore ios.png and icon underscore about, and then save it. Now I have to explain two things, that is the what is the on platform and what is this Mac Catalyst. So in Xamarin Form, this on platform is a markup extension used to specify different values for properties based on the platform or the device being targeted. So in this provided example, on platform is being used to set the icon property of an element with different images specified for different platforms. Okay, and this Mac Catalyst is a technology that allows developers to bring their iPad apps to Mac. So depending on the platform on which the app is running, the appropriate image will be used as the icon. And also this tab bar is the content of the shell. Under the shell root tab is shell, and tab bar is the content of the shell and two shell content objects inside of this tab bar. Okay, so one has got a title of notes and another has a title of about. Now the tab bar and the children and its children, like these two shell contents, don't represent any user interface elements, but rather the organization of the app's visual hierarchy. Shell takes these objects and produces the user interface for the content with a bar at the top representing each page. Okay, and now we are done and we'll run the app. Now let's run the application with the Galaxy Nexus API 33 Android emulator, and click on this icon. Alright, so you can see that there are two tab bars for the notes and another for the app. If you click on the about icon, and this is the notes icon that we have added in the images folder earlier, if you remember. So this is the about page that we have created recently, and this is the notes page, which is the main page. And if you click, if you show you the increase in your clicks, it will increment the counter, click 3 times 4 times, and about page is the new page. And if you click on learn more, it will automatically open it within this Android emulator itself. So that marks the end of this application. If you have liked this video, please subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and hit the notification icon and put your valuable comments. Thank you. Hello and welcome, friends. So today I will be taking our .NET MAUI app for the Notes app from the last version of part 3, where we have actually seen this. We have seen that I have got a Note tab, Notes tab, and an About tab. So we could just toggle between these two tabs, and we will be taking it further to create a actual notes page where we can write notes and we will be able to save note or delete a note. Alright, so let's switch over to our Visual Studio and start coding. So let me close this application, stop this application, and the first thing that we'll do here is to add a page for the note. So right click on the project, click on add, new item, and as you expect, .NET MAUI. I will click on .NET MAUI, and as before I will click on the .NET MAUI content page XML and give it the name so notepage.xaml. So this will be notepage.xaml. So I have shown you that even if you delete the extension and write note page, it will create a XAML file, a .xaml file. Now we'll need to change this standard templated page, which automatically creates the content page, which has got some namespaces, as we have already discussed in our previous versions, and with the title note page, and it has got a vertical stack layout. And what we have learned in vertical stack layout so far is that whatever the controls are, they are stacked vertically, one above the other. So we'll get rid of this label and we'll write our own markup to improve, to modify or customize the markup to our own requirement. Okay. So let me give it a spacing, say 10. You could always play with or experiment with your spacing and margin, etc. things. So 5 margin is good, I've found. And here within this, because I need to create a note page, so I need to write the notes somewhere. So for that, editor comes handy, editor control. So editor, and I'll have to give it a name, x:\name. So this is a text editor. Feel free to give it any other name that actually pleases you, like note editor, notepad, or whatever. And then there is another attribute, placeholder, and in the placeholder you can just prompt the user what you want the user to enter. So enter your note, or enter your message, whatever. And then the height, what should be a convenient height? Again, it will come by practice, and for me it is 100. Okay, so height request is 100, and then editor ends over here, end editor tab, and then you could just end it over here like that. Then it automatically takes care of the end editor tag. And next I will introduce a new control, that is grid. So grid, for grid, it has got a column definitions, and here I will right, by definition, by default, the grid comes up with just one column and one row. So by writing like this, column definitions equal to star comma star, I am making it a two column, one column and the second column, and star means that the column can expand to automatically adjust the contents. Okay, so you're not specifying any height for the column. All right, and then all I need to do is to define column spacing. There is no comma in between the two attributes. So column spacing, I can give it as 4. 4 is a suitable column spacing. So spacing between the two columns. So again, end of the grid, but I can always, I don't want the grid to end over here, so I'll have to put a few controls. So I'll put two buttons. So one of the button will be a save button and another is a delete button. That is, let's put it with capital. So text save, that will be the button name or whatever is written on the button, whatever is the, how the button is labeled, that is a save, it will be written over the button. And then this clicked event is a new event handler, button clicked, or better I think save button clicked, that will actually give it a better understanding, comment wise or documentation wise. Clicked equals save button clicked, because it is a save button. All right, and then close this button. It's a better idea to close it like that, and then copy this over, or the delete button. So delete clicked equals delete button clicked, or rather new event handler, button clicked 1, better just delete button clicked. Okay, and then here another thing that I missed, because this is the first column, this is the second column, and it has got a 0 based index. So this is, I have to give the column name as grid.column equals 1. The column number is 1. Okay, so grid dot column double quotes 1, and then text equals delete, right, text is delete on the delete button, and clicked is going to trigger delete button clicked event, and then end grid, end vertical stack layout, and end content page. Save this and let's see the code behind file. So it doesn't give you the button clicked event correctly, so I'll have to actually correct over here. This is save button clicked, and this is delete button clicked. Okay, So because I wanted to keep this separate, there are two buttons, save button and the delete button, so I needed to differentiate them with different methods, save button clicked and delete button underscore clicked. Alright, and then I think this code is pretty clear. This is a vertical stack layout, and this is the editor, which is a free text editor, and it is a multi-line text editor and is the first control inside the vertical stack layout, whereas the grid is the second control inside the vertical stack layout, which has got whatever I said, column definitions. There are two columns which can expand to fill its content with a column spacing of 4, and these are the event that is triggered when you click on the save button, and this is the event delete button clicked when you click the delete button. Okay, now we'll open the C# file and start writing some code. So namespace is notes, and this is a note page is a content page, and what the public constructor by default comes with, it is initialize component. So this initialize component, this default constructor, actually this it reads the XML markup, that is the node page.xml, and it reads all the controls within this markup and initializes the components. Alright, and the objects are connected in their parent-child relationships, and the event handlers defined in the code are attached to events set in the XAML. Okay, so now that you understand a little more about the code behind files, you are going to add the code further. Alright, so first of all, so above the node page constructor, I'll create a variable to store the file name, because what we are going to do is we are going to write the node which will be saved in a text file, and that text file I will construct the file name. So I will use path.combine, and see, you can see string path.combine parent string array of string paths. Okay, so I will get it from the file system app data directory. I'd like to write it in the app data directory, and see string path1, this is path1, this is the path2. So combine two strings into a path. So the first one is the path, and the second one is the file name. So let us name it notes.txt. That is the file name. And now inside this constructor, what I will do, I will write a code so that if the file with that file name exists, okay, taking this as the parameter, if that file name at that path exists, then do what? You can see text editor. I have called this text editor. Okay, so text editor, text editor's text control will be assigned all the contents that you will get with calling file.read.text. By reading all the text at that file path within that file name. File name is, this is actually the name of the file, but the complete path you will get from here. So you read all the text from that file and assign it to the text editor's text control. And then in the save button clicked, you'll write file dot write all text. First you read it and assign it to the text editor's text control or text property, and then you write all the text to that file, taking it from the text editor's text property. Alright, and delete is simple. So if that file exists, if again the same thing, if file.exists file name, passing the file name, then file.delete that file name. Call the delete method of the file system and pass in the file name. That's it. And then empty the contents of the text editor. String.empty. Save it. Now that the node page is finished, we need a way to present it to the user. Now, so I have opened the appshell.xml page, and I will change this content template with the title nodes from main page to node page. Save it. Save the message by typing my second note. Save it. Close the application. Restart the application. Any the way, whether it is through debugger or without debugger, it will come back with the loaded note, my second note. And if we delete it, close the application, restart the application, and nothing is there. So this is the part 5 of this .NET MAUI app that we have started in the part 1, and this will, here I will take up how to bind data to the UI and navigate the pages. Now this portion, this is very interesting and important part because it will discuss the concept of views, models and in-app navigation. Now in the previous steps of the tutorial, we have added 2 pages to the project, that is a node page and an about page. The pages represent a view of the data. So the node page is a view that displays node data, and the about page is a view that displays about app information data. About is nothing but the app application information. Now both of these views have a model of that data hard coded. So we have not created any model for the node page or the about page. Neither we have created any model. So which we are going to do in this lecture, in this part 5. So we have just data hard coded and are embedded in them, and we'll need to separate the data model from the view. But why? What is the benefit of separating the model from the data, from the view? So as you may be aware, some of you who are already developing MVC projects and .NET MAUI, it allows us to design the view to represent and interact with any portion of the model without worrying about the actual code that implements the model. And this is accomplished using data binding, something that will be presented later in the tutorial, but for now let's restructure the project. So let's flip over to Visual Studio. So this is our notes project that we left last time in the part 4. Now first thing, we will actually not require the main page anymore, so we'll be deleting the main page.xaml file. So where is the main page? Main page was here, so we'll be removing it or deleting it. Okay, so main page is deleted. Now we'll add 2 new folders, models and views, to the notes project. So models folder and the views folder. So models and views. Currently there is nothing, and we are soon going to write some files, first with the models. Okay, now we'll have to, what we'll do, and first of all, we have already created this about page.xaml and note page, so we'll move them to the views folder. So this operation might take a long time, just okay, doesn't matter. And adjust namespace for moved files, no, because we'll do it ourselves. And also this about page, similar process of moving the file to the views folder. So okay, and no, adjust namespace for moved files, no. Okay, now next we'll update the view namespace. Now that the views have been moved to the views folder, we will need to update the namespaces to match. The namespaces for the XAML and the code behind files for the page is set to notes. Now this needs to be updated to notes.views. Okay, because within the notes project I've got this views folder in which these about page and the note page are residing now. This is the new location. So now I have got this note page.xaml.cs. So I have got this namespace. Now I'll need to change it to notes.views. All right. And initialize component is no more there because it is not existing, and the text editor is also not existing. So we'll have to bring the .NET namespaces to the XAML. That will happen now. Now we'll open the notepage.xaml, and here the old space is referenced through x:class equals notes.notepage. Okay. Now this defines which class type is the code behind for the XAML. So this entry isn't just the namespace, but the namespace with the type. Now change the x:class from notes.notepage to notes.views.notepage. And save it. Okay. Now this process will have to be repeated with about page. So notes.views.about page. Now I'll have to fix the namespace reference in the shell class also. appshell.xml is open now. Now here you can see that XML namespace local equals CLR hyphen namespace : notes. So this local, actually this is the XML namespace which corresponds to the .NET namespace in the code behind file. Okay, so So we can see, we have already seen that for the note page also and the about page, we have changed the namespace to actually be notes.views, and for about page also we have seen it that we have we have not done it, notes.views. Okay. All right. So now, because this app shell class, it contains the two tabs, one for note and another for about, one for notes, another for the about. So and this local namespace is actually, it was reserved for if the item is on the root level, which it is not. So we will actually change this to make it another namespace. Here it is views, and in this views, this is notes.views. Notes.views. All right. So a .NET namespace is imported into the XAML through the XML namespace declaration, and in this previous before we changed it to views, it was local. It was the attribute in the root element shell. The format of declaring an XML namespace to import a .NET namespace in the same assembly is like, it is this format. So XML namespace colon, this is XML namespace name. It could be local, it could be global, it could be views, anything that you can think. But I have chosen the name views because it is within the views folder. So CLR dash or hyphen namespace and then colon .NET namespace. So .NET namespace was notes.views. So this is notes.views. So in the light of this, now we have changed it to CLR namespace colon notes.views. Now if I open it again, I just reduce the size, put it side by side, you can, it makes sense, right? XML namespace name, that is now views, equals within quotes CLR hyphen namespace colon within within curly braces .NET namespace, which is notes.views. All right. And so we have already done it. Now let's run the application. It should run without any compile error. So there is another change because it will end up in a compile error, that is views, because this is no more local. I've made it XML namespace views. Okay, so this will also need to be changed to views. Save it and then run this. So you can see that the application is running correctly without any failings, any compile error. You can save, you can delete, you can write another message, blah 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 blah, save it, close the application, rerun. So everything is the same. Okay, so it runs without any error. I hope this part is understood, how we change the namespace in the .NET namespace, and how did we change the corresponding namespace, CLR namespace in the XAML file for the note page and the about page to reflect those changes while we move the file to the views folder, and how did we reflect those changes so that the app shell works correctly, because it contains the two tabs for the note page and the about page. Now we will define the model, because currently the model is the data that is embedded in the note and about views. We will create new classes to represent that data. So we will separate the data from the views. Okay, separation of concern it will address. So first the model to represent a note pages data. So we will create two files, add class node class, internal class node. I will go with the internal class, no issues, because internal is the access modifier in C#, that is internal to the within the assembly. It is accessible. It is as good as a public, but if you just wish it to be accessed within the same assembly, so it is internal to this assembly or in the project. So I will paste the code from my clipboard, which I have done to save time. So we have got three properties: file name, text, and date type. Okay, so we save this. Just indent it a little bit. I could change the access modifier to public also, no harm, but this is the minimum access that is required for this class node. Now about pages model also need to be created. So click on add class, internal class about, and in this case I will just write it from my clipboard. So it has got a few properties, to 4 properties, and this title, and this version, and more info URL, and then the message. All right, and then you can save this, and then we'll update the about page. So we'll change the about page's current contents to this content, which I will explain now. So again, the content page is the root element. It has got XML namespace models. Now I've created a models namespace on the XAML side, which is actually calling nodes.models on the code side, because if you look into this nodes.views, that also needs to be changed to nodes.models. Sorry, nodes.views is all right. Now look at some of the lines that has been changed. Now this line, XML namespace models equals CLR namespace nodes.models. Now this particular line, this maps nodes.models.net namespace to the models XML namespace. Okay, nodes.models. This is the nodes.models namespace to the XML namespace. And here some new concepts are being introduced: content page.binding context. Now this binding context property of the content page is set to an instance of nodes.models.about class. So this is nodes.models and then about class, using the XML namespace and the object of models about, using the XML namespace and the object of models about. Now this was set, or this is rather being set using the property element syntax, which is a new thing instead of an XML attribute. So until now, properties have been set using an XML attribute, which works great for simple values such as label.fontSize property. But if the property value is more complex, you must use property element syntax to create the object. Now for example, let's consider creating a label. Okay, so now here we are setting the font size with the font size attribute, but the same font size property can also be set using the property element syntax like this. This is called the property element syntax. This is the binding. This is binding it as the runtime. So the binding syntax is processed at runtime. So this binding syntax is processed at runtime. Like here, binding title, binding version, binding message. It is set at runtime, allowing the value returned from the binding to be dynamic. Now the path portion. Okay, so the path portion. The path portion of the binding path is the property path to bind to. This is the path. This is binding, this is the path. This is binding, this is the path. So binding path is title, binding path is version. This is actually the path is nothing but the property. Okay, property path to bind to. This property comes from the current controls binding context. Okay, binding context is what? Models about. With the label control, binding context is unset. Binding context is unset with the label control. Unset is the opposite of set. Context is inherited from the parent when it's unset by the control, which in this case the parent object setting context is the root object, that is the content page. The object in the binding context is an instance of the about model. Okay, the binding path of one of the labels binds the label.text property. One of the labels binding the binding path of one of the labels binds that label.text property to the about.title property. This is the title property. Labels text property is binding to the about's title property. Similarly, this labels text property is bound to the about model's version property. So title, version and message. So all these are about. Title, version and message are all the properties of this about model. Alright. Now the final change to the about page is updating the button click that opens the web page. Now the URL was hard coded in the code behind, but the URL should come from the model that is in the binding context property. So in this about page.xaml.cs, so we have written learn more _ clicked await launcher.default.open async. So this code needs to change actually. So I'll delete this code, and instead of this code I will actually put this code. So here you can see if the binding context is models.about. Okay, so in the model folders about class, and this is denoted by this object about, then await on launcher.default.open asynchronously about.info more info URL, because this will actually look into the about classes all the properties like message, more info URL, title and version. All right. Now we have just seen that the foregone discussion or the foregone section we have discussed the about page was bound to the about model. Now we will do the same binding the node view to the node model. However, in this case the model won't be created in XAML but will be provided in the code behind in the next few steps. So we'll open nodepage.xaml file, nodepage.xaml file, and here I'll make a small change. Here placeholder, enter your message. Okay, so here I will put the text attribute as binding text. Binding with the gap text, binding it with text. Okay, rest are all the same. This modification for the code behind are more complicated than the XAML. The current code is loading the file content in the constructor and then setting it directly to the text editor property. Okay, so let's open the node page code, notepage.xaml.cs. Now the current code is looking like this: initialize component. If file.exists file name, then text editor, you are assigning to the text editor the value after reading it from the file.read_all-text file name. Okay. Now instead of loading the note in the constructor, we'll create a new load note method. And what this load note method will do? This method will accept a file name parameter, create a new note model and set the file name. And if the file exists, load its content into the model. If the file exists, update the model with the data the file was created and set the binding context of the page to the model. So this are the few things that it will do, and let's create the load note method. So save it. So it accepts the file name parameter, okay, and create a new note model. First it is creating a new note model, accept a file name parameter, is accepting the file name parameter, creating a new note model, and if the file exists, then load its content into the model, note model.date in these two lines, note model.text, okay, and set the binding context to the binding context of the page to the model. Now finally we'll update the class constructor to call the load note method, which we have written over here. So I will get rid of this part, instead replace with this part. So I have actually assigned a string variable app data path, and I take it from the file systems app data directory, and I have created a random file name which gets it from path dot get random file name dot notes dot text. So this will get a random file name, it will get, and I'll call this load note and pass this by combining by calling the combine method of the path.combine app data path and random file name, because I can, it's a string path1 colon string path2, so both can be passed as a string. Both of the strings app data path and random file name will give it a full path. Okay, here it is accepting this file name. So that's the end of this. So here the project will do exactly the same if I run it, because we have just restructured the project, we have not done anything new.